Arun, I want to start off by asking you a couple questions.
Sure, yeah.
To begin with, your creativity.
Ugh.
What made you decide to get into this aspect of it?
Into filmmaking? Funny enough, for many years I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And then one day I was just walking along and I thought, originally I thought, I love documentaries. I want to make documentaries. I'd never held a camera before. I didn't know anything about it. I just thought, I just want to make films. I want to make documentaries. And at the time, VFS had a really strong doc program. So I thought, I'll go there. And the first day I was there, I immediately knew this is what I want to be doing for the rest of my life. And I also fell in love with drama, narrative, and I just knew I love filmmaking. It was meant to be. And then even though I started off a little bit older in life, I had one of the best years of my life. And even the guy that I ended up being my best friend over the course of the year at VFS, he had just graduated high school the week before, and so I was the old dude in the class at 35, and his name's Jackson, and he was I think 17 at the time. And the two of us somehow we hit it off really well, and we ended up making 3 movies together. We had a lot of fun, and I just knew this is what I want to be doing for the rest of my life. It was it sometimes when you know, you know. It was when you, I guess I like to follow Joseph Campbell's advice. When you follow your bliss, doors will open up for you, and that seems to be happening ever since.
So, how did the door open up between you two? How did that come about?
Oh,
Well, that kind of gets into cadence, I
yeah,
guess.
for sure.
Yeah, we started by making a 20-minute short film, and Arun was involved in that. He was the assistant director, and after watching the 20-minute cut, he just got so excited that
Yeah.
he asked, like, "Can I be a part of this? I want to be a producer." And we were like, "Yeah, absolutely." And so the three of us kind of teamed together to make the feature film.
The third person being Nick Ayerby. And it's funny enough when we first shot the 20 minutes, I was like, oh,
Yeah,
what's going on here? I don't understand
he was
anything.
not into it.
No.
No, no.
Is that because of the type of movie it was?
Nobody really knew what was going on. I read the script, but it was only part of a feature, so it was hard to tell the whole story.
Yeah.
And but as soon as I saw the very first rough cut, I knew Alex had a vision. Yeah, I couldn't quite grasp it before that, but as soon as I saw what was actually on the screen, I realized, oh, there's something special about this film, and I just needed to be a part of it because I thought there's something really cool about this. There's something special. Sometimes you can just tell just by seeing what's on the screen.
Can you put into words how you get a vision across to other people? How do you portray it so that people can see what you're thinking?
Uh, that's an excellent question. I, yeah, that's a really tough one to answer. I think when you set out on making a film or a story or you're storytelling anything, in the case of filmmaking, it really evolves. It's such an evolving process where you're really discovering. I would say exploration and discovery are the big things. And that's sort of what you go into it with. Like even the 20-minute cut that we made is so radically different from the feature film, even though there's so many elements that are in there from the 20 minutes. It's yeah, just it's crazy how your first cut, like the first cut of the feature film, was just like, it's grueling. Throwing out Scorsese there, he's like, if watching your first cut is not a grueling experience, like then you're not in the right thing. You're not in the right. So yeah, the first cut, watching that
Oh
that
yeah.
first, that was brutal. Um,
I remember screening it for an audience for the first time, and people had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
They thought had involved time traveling, I think somebody said, a
yeah.
lot of ghosts, and it was just we realized, okay, we really need to trim a few things and kill a few darlings, as they like to say.
So, when you show it for the first time, not only are you watching it back for what's probably the thousandth time, but you're watching the audience reaction as well.
Yeah, I mean, we did what like awesome thing that we did was we had a screening. We got together just like a bunch of people that we didn't know, and we just screened the film for them, and then we did sort of an anonymous survey of reactions to the film, and that helped out a ton. Um, yeah, just in terms of like getting
Feedback more than anything else, yeah.
just raw feed, like real feedback, from the film.
My favorite quote, I can't even remember who said it, but you never see your film until you watch it with an audience for the first time. And I find that's really true. You can be in an editing room for months and you can kind of see rough cuts and show it to your friends, but until you actually sit in a room with a complete bunch of strangers and they're seeing it for the first time, all of a sudden you watch it with brand new eyes and you can almost see it through their eyes. And it's terrifying but exhilarating at the same time. It's a lot of fun.
Is there ever like the disaster artist moment where you're like, oh my goodness, they're hating this? Or, what's going through their mind? How do I sit through this?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like even in that screening that we had, there was at least one person. I mean, he didn't walk out, but on we gave a feedback form, and he just flipped over the feedback form and just
Oh no.
went to town about, no, I just hate this, like everything, I hate everything. But Arun was saying the other day, like that's actually, I think it's really good if you have a polarizing film, because I mean, it's better to have a polarizing film than people who are like, oh yeah, it's like,
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, I mean, and we found people either love the film or hate the film. Some people get confused by it, but it's either. I agree with Alex. I'd much rather have a film where some people hate it, and some people love it. I mean, you can't please everybody. And if you go ahead try to make sort of that beige pablum for the masses, you just end up with something pretty generic and boring. So I'd much rather make something that's a little more visceral in terms of the audience reaction.
And Arun, you've told me before that it's your goal in life to make people cry.
Yeah, I
Best
guess.
way
Yeah, the
possible.
best way possible. I'll never forget cutting the first documentary at Vancouver Film School, and some people watched it, and we started to cry. We're like, yeah, we got them, we got them. And it's not that you're trying to manipulate people, but you know that you're touching people in a genuine way. And I think that's really been the goal of all the films that I work in, is that you want to make something that's real, that's honest, that has a genuine reaction from audiences. I'd much rather have people cry or laugh or scream than people just sort of sit casually back and, okay, well, what's next? What's next on my Netflix lineup that I can binge on? I mean, it's nice to get that raw, honest reaction.
And we'll talk more about cadence in just a second, because there is a lot of reaction in just watching the trailer alone. But speaking about making people cry, Before She's Gone, it's super short, but it gets you in the feels real quick, real fast. Why did you decide to do that?
Well, originally I knew I wanted to make a film about my grandparents. They were married for 69 years. My grandmother had Alzheimer's for 17 years. And I knew I wanted to make a film, but honest, I had no idea what it was going to be about. And then I'll never forget, I sat down with Anna, my wife, who's an amazing producer and just really good with a story. And as soon as she started watching the film, she said, "Oh, this is not a film about Alzheimer's. This is a love story." And as soon as she said that, I thought, "Oh, that's the story. I know how to make that. I know how to tell a love story. I know how to tell their story." And then once she said that, it all sort of clicked. And it just became, I don't want to say it became easy, but it just became almost effortless. And I worked with an amazing editor named Nadeem, and he just kept coming up with all these original ideas. And everybody that was involved with it just loved it and was really passionate about it. And it turned out to be a nice little film. We're really happy with it.
And you found new footage that you'd never seen before to put into it, of past videos of your grandparents. What was it like going through all that? It must have been emotional.
No, that was crazy. My grandfather handed me 8 reels of old 8 millimeter film he shot, and my family had never seen it before. And so the first time they watched the film, they were seeing footage like back in the day when they're like this big. And they're like, "Oh my God, I can't, oh, there's grandma, there's mom." And that was one of the most special moments. And then I've since been able to pass all that footage along to them. And they get to see all the raw, unedited footage as well. And they got to see their mom, my dad and his siblings. They got to see her in a brand new light and footage that they'd never seen before. That was really one of the most special moments. And my grandmother was able to see the film as well, which was amazing. I mean, you put all your energy and love into this, and to have her there for the big premiere was really special.
There's a point where she's sitting in the car, and it's almost like she doesn't realize what's going on around her, and she starts talking and then realizes that your grandfather's not in the car. Was there ever a point while you were filming where you were like, this is really difficult, I can't do this, until you pushed through it?
A little bit. Sometimes you almost have to detach yourself as a filmmaker, and it's not that you're trying to be cold or manipulative, but sometimes you just have to realize you just put the camera on it and you get what you get. I did another documentary on the Occupy movement, and of course I kind of had some of the similar political leanings, but I didn't want to come across as, yay, let's occupy and let's rally against the masses. I mean, I try to come across as a filmmaker first, and that's really the goal of when we make these. You want to come across, well, let's put the camera, let's see what we get, and you don't want, you have to have a slight detachment. Of course, it's your grandparents, and it gets a little heartbreaking, but sometimes you just have to turn it on and let the cameras go and see what you get.
So between the two of you, how do you decide which part of the movie you want to be? Whether it's directing, writing, shooting, because you did the camera work as well. How do you decide what part you're going to take in what movie?
I think in the case of Cadence, the roles were sort of established when Arun got involved and he wanted to jump on as producer, and it was sort of aligned. But I mean, when it comes to indie filmmaking, you really blur lines because you're wearing all sorts of hats. Yeah. And so, I mean, I would say in the case of the Cadence, the feature we worked on, it was really like I really relied on the producers like Arun and Nick in terms of like giving honest feedback. Yeah. And yeah, they were awesome in terms of like that's really the best kind of producers you can have, is just going to be super honest with you and saying this scene doesn't work, and not I guess play into like your ego or play into like, I don't know, saying like it does work or this, or yeah, it's okay, like we can live with it, right? Like no, like it doesn't work. So they were really good in that in regards to being honest. Yeah.
That's often the toughest part. I'll never forget, after we got all the feedback from the screening, we ended up cutting 2 whole scenes from the film, and one of the scenes was by far and away the hardest scene to film. It was like this beautiful shot through the trees. It was a one-er on a movie. We spent half a day trying to get it right. I think we did like 15 takes, and by far and away visually the most interesting scene. But we realized we didn't need it, and so we just ended up cutting it. And it was one of the most hardest decisions, but in the end it made the film a lot better. And then when it comes to picking roles, I think this is the beauty of indie filmmaking as opposed to a lot of other filmmakers. They'll go into unions and they'll work on big shoots, which more power to them. I mean, good for them. But when I first started, I made the conscious decision. I'm not in this for like a job. I want to make films. I want to make art or whatever you want to call it. And that's the beauty of indie filmmaking, is that you kind of wear a lot of different hats. Especially if you're a producer or a director, you're doing a little bit of everything. You're helping bring in gear, you're helping edit, you're just helping all the different departments. Whereas if you do like a union shoot, and like if you're a set decorator, for example, that's all you do. And for me, that's not why I got into this. I don't want to like just do one particular thing. I love everything about it. I love editing. I love camera. I love gripping. Okay, setting up a C-stand is a lot of fun, actually. And that's the one thing I do love about indie filmmaking, is that you do get to wear a lot of hats.
And you're even that person that goes and finds the appropriate props.
Oh, for sure.
You go all out. You do it all.
Yeah, you have to. I love doing production design work. I've done 3 short films where my official credit is production design, and it's a lot of fun because you're picking out costumes, you're picking out props, you're decorating, you're really getting involved, and you get to work quite closely with the producers, with the directors, and really shaping a lot of the visuals and a lot of the creative storytelling, where you're telling the story just by using a prop. They're not saying anything, but what is that prop saying on camera? For example, if it's a baseball, what year is that baseball? Is it a used baseball? Is it kind of scruffy? Is it brand new? How much story can you tell with each individual item? It's a lot of fun. I love geeking out. I'm a proud geek. I will always be. I'm a proud geek. I have no problem admitting that. I come from a long line of geeks. Hi, brothers. And yeah, we love film. We just love everything about it, and I think you carry that with you as well, and as do you. Just in everything that you do, you just sort of carry that passion in film. It's once you get that bug, it's hard to shake.
So how challenging is it when you're working with a smaller budget and you want to find the perfect piece to go on set?
Gosh.
The perfect piece?
The perfect piece, the perfect house, the perfect anything.
Oh, yeah. Well, indie filmmaking is all about compromise. Really.
Sometimes it is.
But that's also, I think, great, is that you start off with a challenge and you start off sort of with a problem, but you kind of have to, yeah, you have to address it in the sense that, like, I think I see it as a positive challenge in the sense that you don't have the budget to just go out and make the blockbuster that you want. But at the same time, you can be creative about things. So, for example, this film was written all in one location. Like locations they eat up budget in no time. So like just doing company moves, moving your whole crew from set to set is very costly. So writing something that takes place all in one location really has its advantages in terms of just saving money. And we shot it on my parents' farm, and they were generous to donate their farm and location to us for the length of the shoot. And so, yeah, writing a whole story that just takes place on one location, that's any advice. I would say that's a big advice if you're going to do something small budget. Yeah.
But it's awesome because not everyone could captivate people staying in one place. But Cadence did that. You guys came a long way with that. I know it's not the end of it yet. But even as far as taking it to VIFF, and you guys got to screen it at the Rio Theater, that's huge.
Yeah, that's awesome.
How do you get to a point where you're like, okay, we've done this, but we have to go the next step?
Like, do you mean distribution or the next film?
The next step with this film, as far as distribution, as far as letting more people see it, how do you decide what that next step is?
That's sort of our next step. Is we're just trying to sort of crack that nut in terms of getting it out to the people. And so we're excited. It should be out hopefully in the next few months. I think that's the plan. We'll see. That's getting an audience to watch your film in this day and age, where I think 500 hours of YouTube content get uploaded every minute, and trying to fight for those eyeballs just to watch your film is very challenging. So that's our next major step, and we're trying to come up with some creative ways in order to market it and get it out there. Hopefully, people will see this interview and maybe come back and check our trailer and get it out there.
Yeah, and I think another thing is just to be honest with yourself in terms of where you are as an artist and where you are as filmmakers, and it's a learning experience for us as well, like distribution. We're learning a ton of things right now, talking to, sort of boutique distributors and sales agents and stuff like that, and just, absorbing as much as we can about going through this the first time,
Yeah.
And I know, Arun, you're always doing multiple projects. It's never just one, which says a lot about you because you can multitask, which is fantastic.
I think it's more ADHD than anything else.
Whatever works. You're talking about Cadence hopefully coming out in the next few months. You've got another project that you've been working on that's hopefully coming out in May, the Shipment.
June, yeah. We're going to be doing our official cast and crew screening in June. Originally it was called Cargo, now it's called The Shipment. It's a sci-fi drama epic. It's only about 33 minutes, but it feels a lot bigger. And it stars some amazing talent, both in front of the camera and behind the camera. I think you've interviewed Alex Ponovich, the star of the film. It also has Omari Newton in it. And some of the best crew members in all of Vancouver. A lot of them were actually taking a break from Planet of the Apes to come and work on this. We're really excited about this. I've been involved in this since 2014, I want to say. So it's a long haul, and that's really where the passion of filmmaking comes through. Because if you're thinking, oh yeah, we'll make a little film, we'll write it, we'll film it, and come out in a few months. Now, sometimes that just doesn't happen, especially for a film of this scale. So we're really excited. Hopefully, we'll have a Vancouver screening for the general public later in the fall. We'll see what happens, but yeah, it's been a lot of fun, very challenging, but also really rewarding at the end of the day. We just went to a sound edit mix this past Sunday, and it's so cool watching all the pieces finally all come together. It's like a dream come true at times.
And what I can't believe, I've been lucky enough to see very, very tiny clips of it. The visual effects.
Yeah.
Knowing that you guys work with small budgets and just seeing what you can produce with that, it's insane. How do you get such a good network of people together?
Well, I got to give a big, huge shout out to our director, Bala, who's given everything he has towards making this film. He's a visual effects artist, and that's what he does best. And you can really see it come through on the screen. He spent years perfecting it. He spent years even before this film. I think he was involved in the show Reboot, and he's got a big background in just working with visual effects, and that's really where he shines. So we've been waiting for him to get his hands on it. He's been working on it for the last couple of years, and that's really been his area of expertise, and it comes through on the screen. And his commitment to perfection and absolute beauty on the screen, it comes through on camera, that's for sure.
I'm honestly so excited to see it.
Oh, so am I.
I have one more question that I ask each of my guests. It's about your socks.
Oh.
I think socks tell a lot about a person, and I would like to know. I mean, Alex, you've got awesome green socks on.
I lucked out.
You did.
I really did luck out.
Are you not normally a funky sock wearing person?
No, I'm like a white and gray.
Really?
I know, yeah, you're probably right. Socks can tell a lot. They can tell a lot. These were given to me by my mother. Yeah, so this was a Christmas gift.
Nice.
And I kind of
goes so well with the green screen.
You might lose your feet altogether.
Maybe.
You're a sock guy.
Yeah,
Yeah, what's up with your sock game?
I actually have two pairs of socks
Oh,
on.
there we go.
So
They're both black though.
they're both black.
Why two?
So my boots would fit better, to be honest. I was on my feet all day teaching kids filmmaking workshop, and honestly, your feet are so important when you're filmmaking. One of the golden rules I find with filmmaking is change your socks at lunchtime. And one of my favorite filmmakers, his name's Peter Marshall. He's assistant director, and he's a director, and he has 10 golden rules of filmmaking. And number 10 is change your socks at lunchtime. If I can pass one thing along to your audience, please change your socks. Ideally, bring a new pair of shoes, because filmmaking, it's very hard work and it's challenging. And if after 6 hours of being on your feet all day, if you can take a couple of minutes, change your socks, you'll feel like a whole new person. So whenever I'm on film set, I always bring a bag with me with a spare pair of socks, and I change my socks every day. And it actually, I walk out and I think, okay, I'm ready for the second half of the day because I feel like a new man.
That's got to be why we get along so well, because socks mean so much to you.
Of course, yes.
I get that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.